Okay, so we'll call a meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Any changes or additions to the proposed agenda? Hearing and seeing none, I'll turn it over to you, Meredith, I guess.
Okay, so thanks everybody for joining us. We have a pretty short agenda, and I know it's a beautiful night, so I'm not intending to speak too long. Just have a quick presentation on some of the highlights on the general department budget and some information about Article 6 on the ballot, which has to do with some work on the B22 Sub Transmission Line that is jointly owned by Morrisville and Johnson. Part of the required statutory process is that we present the voters with information, and then before the project can get underway, that there's actually a public vote. So I guess I'll just jump into that presentation, and if at the end we have plenty of time for questions and answers, and if there's anything I didn't talk about that you have questions on, specific budget questions, happy to answer those. So I'll switch gears here and switch to the presentation. Can everybody see the presentation? Does that come through? Gordy, I'll use you as my test. Can you see the presentation okay?
It says Village of Johnson 2020 Annual Election and Budget Informational Meeting, big screen.
Yep, that's it. Great. So just a few slides. So a little just general information why we're here. Obviously, we canceled the annual meeting that usually occurs in early April, and we're going to have all of the voting done by Australian ballots. Normally, we would have our elections by Australian ballot, and then some questions that traditionally done at the annual village meeting. We've transitioned everything to a paper ballot this year because of the inability to have a large group meeting because of COVID-19. So the actual election day is Tuesday, June 2nd, so next week, a week from today. The polls are open from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at the municipal building. We have mailed paper ballots to all active village voters. We're imploring people to please vote by mail. We've tried to make it easy for folks, and this will help, cut down on the amount of people coming into the municipal building, help protect our staff and the people who work at the polls, and also just your fellow voters. So please vote by mail if you can. If you have any questions about that, please let us know, give us a call. If you misplaced your ballot, we can send another one out. And as a reminder, the ballots that were mailed out, those paper ballots must be received by 7 p.m. on June 2nd. You can mail them back, or you can also drop them off in the drop box at the municipal building. So we're trying to make it easy for you not to have to come on June 2nd and actually vote in person. So just a quick year in review. So for 2019, it was already almost 6 months ago already. So it's hard to even look back, but we did have a busy year last year. We completed, these are just some of the highlights. We completed the design and engineering for the Pearl Street Clay Hill Sidewalk project, which is a reconstruction of that section of sidewalk after the bridge near School Street and up the hill a little ways. And we are in the process of trying to get some remaining easements, and then hopefully we'll be able to put the project out to bid. We were hopeful to do that this summer with all of the delays and with COVID-19 and some trouble getting an easement. It's possible we may not actually go to construction until next spring, but we did make a great accomplishment of getting the design done for that, so we're ready to move forward when the time comes. The fire department purchased a new Rescue 1 fire truck, which you see pictured there, and it's a great new vehicle that will help the fire department better meet its intended purpose and all the demands on it. into the future. It's a more powerful, bigger, more capable truck than what they had previously. And there was a lot of work done by the firefighters, our fire chief, and officers to pick the right vehicle, get it for the best price, and make sure it's a good quality piece of equipment. We completed another phase of the municipal building siding project. I think most people have probably noticed over the last few years, we've slowly been redoing the siding on the municipal building, and we've completed most of the building. I think what's left now is just the tower, and we were hoping to get that done this year. Whether or not we can do that, again, with the delays from the pandemic, remains to be seen, but we're mostly done, and we made good progress on that last year. And we also, through the work of the beautification committee, of which Gordy is a member, along with a few other members of the community, there was a joint effort to put some new plantings on the village green, just trying to make that look a little bit more vibrant there in the summer. And there's a picture there of some of the plantings that were done. And the other departments for the village, so not the general fund, but for our electric, water, and sewer, a huge project that took up a lot of time and effort was the demolition of the powerhouse building. It also took a lot of money. It was funded through the electric department. The building itself was at risk of collapse into the river. You can see a picture of it there with the outer wall listing towards the river. It had contamination from PCBs, lead, and asbestos. So the demolition and disposal of those materials was quite costly. They had to be taken to a hazardous waste site in Michigan, but we've gotten it down, did it the right way and properly, and we avoided a bigger problem with the building going into the river. We've also almost completed a water asset management plan for our water system. This is something that helps us plan for future and the future investments in the plant and the system, helps us prioritize projects and come up with a better maintenance schedule. We also upgraded the communications equipment for the water system. So different parts of the system, the reservoir, the booster stations, and the pumps at the plant all communicate with each other to know when to run. And that was upgraded this year, or in 2019. We also updated the major computer system at the wastewater treatment facility that was quite old. It was the original one to the plant, and definitely needed to be upgraded to be more secure and more reliable. And we also made some important repairs to the generator, which provides backup power. Obviously, if we lost power at the plant, we need that to keep running so we don't have any backups into the river. And so we made those repairs this year as well. Those are some of the highlights. Happy to answer questions later if anybody has other questions about work done in 2019. I'm going to keep moving. Looking forward to 2020. Just a few highlights for the general department. We are proposing a balanced budget of $545,746. We're accomplishing that with level property tax revenue. So the amount that we're proposing to raise from property taxes is essentially flat, and it has been flat or decreasing for the last 7 years. It gets more challenging every year. We had to be quite creative and really, I'd say, pare down to a certain degree this year, but we've done it, and we're going to keep trying to do that. We're trying to be as efficient as we can with the taxes that we receive from our residents. The budget continues to prioritize support for essential services. So obviously the fire department, which is funded through the general department, the snow removal, so the ongoing maintenance of our sidewalks, also upgrading some of our equipment. In the 2020 budget, we're proposing to purchase a new Bobcat, so that will help with, to make sure that the equipment is ready when the winter snows come. Sidewalk maintenance, so spot fixes here and there, and then ongoing work on the municipal building. We also were able to fund out of this budget what I'm calling strategic investment in the downtown. So we don't have a lot of funds available, but we try and use the little money that we do have to support our downtown. So continued work with the beautification committee, and we've got funds continuing to support the Holiday Jubilee and also Johnson Works, which are both very important for the vibrancy of our downtown. I just wanted to say a little bit about COVID-19. You know, obviously it's what everybody talks about constantly, and I know people probably are a little bit sick about hearing about it, but you know, I did want to acknowledge that we do think that there will be some impact on all village departments from the pandemic. Obviously, our utility revenues are lower than we projected at the beginning of the year. You know, with businesses shutting down, with NVU shutting down, the revenue coming into our utilities is certainly going to be lower than we projected. We know that projects are getting delayed. You know, essentially nothing happened for 2 months, and that will have some impact on when things get done. And we're also having to alter how we approach different projects. So our work practices and procedures have changed. We've had to implement rules to protect our staff and the public, and that's just going to a certain degree, impact our productivity for the next few months as long as those remain. It's necessary to keep staff safe, but it does have an impact. In terms of the exact impact on budgets, it's a little bit too early to know what the exact impact is going to be. For that reason, we did not go back and make adjustments to the budgets because of COVID-19. It's just, we don't have a clear enough sense of what the impact is going to be to make a reasoned change to the budget. So for now, we're just going to keep monitoring it. We'll try and keep the voters and our customers, our customers, as updated as possible as the situation becomes clearer. All right. And so next up, as I mentioned at the very beginning, Article 6, and it's right here in the quotes, but I'll read it. This is a sort of unique question this year. It has to do with some work that is proposed to be done on our B22 Sub Transmission Line. So the article is, will the village vote to approve, pursuant to VSA 30, Section 248C1, the reconstruction, ownership, and operation of 1.5 miles of 34.5 kV line from the area of Katie's Falls Tap to the Morrisville Substation 3 in the town of Morristown, as addressed by the Vermont Public Utility Commission in case number 19-4464 PET. So that's not overly clear what that means. So I wanted to give a little bit more context for what that question is. And we have John Fisk on the line from Green Mountain Power, who can answer any technical questions about the actual project that folks may have, but I'll give you my best summary of what the project is. So I'm referring to it as a Green Mountain Power initiated project. I don't know, some people may have heard that there is a problem with the amount of transmission capability in Northeast Vermont. There's a transmission constraint, which is known as the Sheffield Highgate Export Interface, SHIA for short, and it's affecting multiple utilities and power generators in Northeast Vermont. And there's a sort of multi-pronged approach to try and solve that constraint and work on, excuse me, the B22 Sub Transmission Line is part of the sort of suite of solutions to solve that issue. The B22 Sub Transmission Line, as I mentioned, is a jointly owned asset by the Village of Johnson and Morrisville Water and Light. Johnson owns 15% and Morrisville owns 85%. And for that reason, to have work done on that line, according to state statute, approval has to be given by both the Johnson voters and Morrisville voters in order for the project to move forward. So that's why you're seeing this question on Article 6 on our ballot. I've got a little bit more information about the project. So essentially, GMP, who is one of the utilities that is being impacted by this transmission constraint in Northeast Vermont, is seeking to complete this work. They're going to do some work that is necessary to solve the transmission problem that's affecting them, but some of that work is also just work that Johnson and Morrisville would have had to have done anyway as part of our regular maintenance of our asset. And those upgrades to the B22 will improve the safety, reliability, and efficiency of the distribution system, which is certainly a positive for residents of both Morrisville and Johnson. Anything that improves the reliability of power, electric service, is certainly a benefit. The project will also help increase the capacity of the local transmission, and that benefits us, of course, as well as utilities and customers throughout the state. As I mentioned, a portion of the project is work that would have been done by us anyway. And so that work, which we would have had to have done anyway, is not going to be paid for by GMP. They're paying for the work that is really solving their issue and solving the bigger issue that's not specifically related to our asset. This project that's being led by GMP advances the timeline that we would have completed the work ourselves by about 5 years. It looks like I meant just putting 5 in there. It's advanced by about 5 years. And it's estimated that our share of the project costs is $31,739. And GMP will be paying the upfront cost, and Johnson will be reimbursing GMP for those expenses over 5 years interest-free. So from our standpoint, we're getting the benefit of the upgrades that would have needed to have been done anyway. And we're not having to pay for all of that in a single year. We're able to pay for it over several years interest-free. So we see it from the village's perspective as a win-win, that we're able to help work cooperatively with GMP in Morrisville to solve the bigger SHIA constraint and also get some work done for us in a way that's fiscally, easier to handle than one big outlay in a single year. So hopefully that makes sense and clarifies a little bit about what Article 6 is asking about. And I think that was my last slide. So at this point, I can look and see if anybody, if you have questions, you can, there are only 12 of us. So I think folks, rather than raising your hand, can just unmute yourself and feel free to jump in with any questions you may have. Anybody? It's okay. It's okay if you don't, but we're happy to answer any questions folks may have. As I said, the general department budget every year gets a little bit more challenging to keep the property taxes level funded, but we're pleased to have been able to do it this year without making any significant cuts and still being able to do some things that really help improve the community, to a certain degree.
Did a good presentation.
I guess so. I know I talk fast, so if any of that wasn't clear, let me know. And I do want to reiterate that we would love for people to vote by mail if at all possible. That would really help our staff out and people who work the polls, just help keep them safe.
This recording is going to be available online for voters who couldn't turn in?
Sure, I can definitely try and post the video of this meeting online. I'd be happy to. I may need to, we had some discussion at the beginning before the meeting got started. I may need to do a little editing just to get the meeting, but I can try and get that up.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Anybody? I was wondering if anybody could give me a slight update on the sidewalk project that's been delayed a year. What happened there with the easement, et cetera?
Sure. So we've been able to get easements from almost all of the property owners. The Vermont Studio Center had some concerns about giving a certain type of easement that we've been advised is what we should get. And so we're going a little bit back and forth with them. The village trustees did vote to initiate condemnation proceedings in order to condemn the small pieces of land where the easement and new sidewalk would go. We're still hoping that we may be able to come to an agreement without having to go through that full process. But that's really, one of the delays. Also, just the pandemic and not being able to really move forward with other aspects of the project has also delayed things. But that's the reality. We have gotten confirmation from VTrans that we should be able to extend the grant that provides about $45,000 in funding for the project. and move that into next year. So we don't need to worry about losing that funding that's available to help fund the project. But the main delay right now is
That
trying
would
to
be
figure out-
helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was that's been weighing on my mind for the last few months, saying, as the months tick away and our construction season is not very long here, I've been worried about that. But we have been able to get reassurance from them that they would be willing to extend it for a year.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Sure.
I'm Stan Lane, by the way, if anybody wonders where the voice is coming from.
Well, thank you for joining us. All right. Well, if no one else has any questions, always feel free to reach out to me, or if you have any questions about the ballot or how to get your vote in, you can reach out to Rosemary. And I guess if there's no questions, we can wrap it up. People can go enjoy the 90 degrees.
There's one thing.
Yeah.
There's one thing I would like to add, Meredith, and that is the very good cooperation between the select board and the trustees on this COVID-19 process on this joint committee. And I just want to say that both boards have been doing an excellent job trying to get through this situation.
Absolutely. Yep. No, it's been very good.
Do I take a motion to adjourn? If there are no other questions?
I can make that motion, Gordy.
Okay. Do I have a second?
A
Second.
second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Thank you for joining us. And all those in favor of the motion signify with an aye.
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 Those opposed? Enjoy the evening.
Yep.
Thanks,
you.
Meredith, for getting it prepared.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.